Hello Internet and welcome back on this holiday weekend. For whatever reason, all of the stories posted lately are really short, so this video might not be too long. Sorry, I'm not allowed to take orders from disgruntled soccer moms. So I work for a sanitation company and clean outhouses for a living. 99% of what I do is service units in nearby mines, and so I rarely interact with people. And since honey wagons are often loaded to the rim with crap, people don't exactly approach my truck. It always throws me off when someone walks up to me when I'm cleaning an outhouse. Now, occasionally I do some stuff in town, but usually just deliveries. Seldomly do I go on a route in town. One day though, I'm asked to deliver some units to a sports field, and I go around setting them up, getting them ready and making them all pretty and crap for whatever is going on. Baseball game apparently. I get a call from my boss asking if I can hang out a bit, because they need an extra truck for another project and he wants me to hang out for someone to show up and lead me to the location. While I'm waiting, this happens. I say, yeah, supervisor, I'll hang out for a couple hours. What all is... Excuse me, sir, can you move that outhouse? Hang on, supervisor, someone's asking me something. What's wrong, ma'am? The entitled mom says, the outhouse is in the way. Nothing is supposed to be in eyesight for the kids. I say, I just set them up where I was told to. I can't just... Oh, I won't tell anyone. How hard could it be to move a couple of units? I say, I don't think you understand. Those each weigh 500 pounds, and... Oh, I can recruit some help. We just need to move them before we start the game. I say, let me call my supervisor and see what he says. So I call him, he says, tell her no, that's not our problem. The customer told us to put them where we did. So then she says, oh, this is just a huge mistake. Let me call the customer. Somewhat heated argument over the phone. I don't know what they're saying. Then she comes back and says, he said to move them. So after spending 30 minutes of moving the units, the customer shows up and says, hey, why are you moving the units? So me, very confused, I thought you approved it. She says, no, who told you that? I said, that lady over there? She says, of course she did. Go ahead and put those units back so they don't get run over. I'll have a word with her. Another comical argument from afar I didn't get to hear. About an hour later, my supervisor calls and says, hey, I just got a call from the customer. The units you set up got hit by a truck. Where did you put them? I say, against the fence? How did they? He says, they were on the road. The customer said he told you to move them back against the fence. I say, I did. Some soccer mom tricked me, and then I had to put them back, and... He says, blonde with leather jacket? I say, this has happened before, hasn't it? He says, I'll call the customer and see if we can find out what happened. You promise you put the units against the fence? After that, I got word from the supervisor that the soccer mom apparently got some guy to help her drag the movements into the road, where they promptly got run over. And then they tried to throw us under the bus to tell the customer I got lazy and didn't want to move them. But fortunately, those units all have probes in them, so we can track them. And so we know the units got magically moved after I drove away. So yeah, there's the BS I had to deal with. Man, it really sucks when you're not really sure who you're supposed to listen to, but everyone is telling you a different thing to do. So you're just like, who am I gonna get yelled at the least by listening to? Now we have, I got electrocuted. So I'm just sitting casually, scrolling through my Reddit feed and checking the news sites while sipping my coffee. It's a Sunday morning, so it's gonna be a quiet morning. Well, one lady walks through the lobby at about 7:30 and goes into the breakfast area. Within 2 minutes of her walking in there, I hear a scream coming from the breakfast room. I run in instantly to see this woman standing there in shock near the toaster, then proceeds to roar at me and the waiters for having a faulty toaster that can kill someone. I look at the toaster and see a metal fork hanging out the top of it. She had just stuck her fork into the toaster to try and get the toast out before popping. I say, ma'am, the toaster is not faulty. You're just not supposed to stick metal objects, in fact any object really, into a toaster. That's how you get electrocuted. She says, I just got electrocuted. I demand to see a manager about this. This is a health and safety hazard. I say, it is indeed, ma'am, but to be honest, it's common knowledge not to stick things in a toaster. And I am the manager, ma'am. The toaster's not faulty, you just need to use it correctly. Our lovely breakfast assistant will be happy to show you how it works if you do need assistance. If you need anything else, ma'am, I'll be at the front desk. I haven't heard from her since, but the breakfast staff told me she kept mentioning wanker advisor. By all means, mention the toaster, you twit. I will happily reply saying you stuck a freaking metal fork into the toaster and were shocked in both senses as to how this could happen. Watch you just bring out like 10 more toasters and have her try each one, watching her just get electrocuted each time thinking that every single one is faulty. I guess some people don't learn these things until they're adults. Punch me as hard as you can. So this is my dad's story, and it's a short one. My dad was 14, and his fairly muscular older brother, my uncle, was 16. My uncle was flexing his abs and said to my dad, punch me as hard as you can. My dad then proceeded to punch him as hard as he could in the face. Man, what is it with dads always wanting people to punch them? My dad always requests the same thing, he always wants me to punch him. And this dad's only 14. I'm going to close my restaurant on Labor Day because I can't stand the calls asking if we're open. So I kept a running tally on Memorial Day, when we were open, and we received almost 3 times as many calls asking if we were open as we did customers. Who are these strange people that seemingly choose to spend their holidays calling restaurants to confirm if they're open or not? Hey, I mean, that's how I'm going to be spending Labor Day. I'm just going to call restaurants and be like, hey, are you guys open today? You are? Okay, well, I'm not coming in either way, so thanks anyway. Man, we're just flying through these. Sorry these have been so short. Don't worry, we got a pretty long question later on. Entitled Mom was insane vegan and terrified of my baby and more. So I'm working at a fair this weekend. I'm showing several of my chickens and ducks over at the fair. I have a trio of light brams, 2 pullets, and a rooster. They are known for being huge birds. I got a caramel apple and I had the rooster, Bob, in my lap. I was sharing with him, as he likes sweets. I was chatting with other people who raise chickens for meat as well. Enter the entitled parents and their entitled brats. What are you doing with that thing out of its crate? I hear a voice basically screech at me. I look up to see a family, a mom, a dad, a little boy to be around 9, and a girl who was around 5. Pardon? I reply, surprised that this random lady came up screaming, in a barn, with chickens, ducks, rabbits, and other flighty animals. I asked why you had that thing out of its cage, she kept screeching. And how could you eat those chickens? They're so cute. I just wanted to choke her. Bob is my baby, like a dog or a cat. Nobody calls him an it. Plus, she was pointing at my quail. He doesn't have to be in his cage, and he's busy eating a caramel apple. I tried to stay calm. Plus, those are quail. We eat them too. Don't talk to my girlfriend like that. The entitled dad started yelling at me. I was taller than him, and much more fit. He was around 5'7" and overweight. She's sensitive. I stood up, moving my baby to my shoulder. I'm tall for a biological female, 5'10". I'm also quite slim, but I work out as well. We're in the middle of a stare down when I hear the entitled brat 2 start screaming, and one of my chickens is squawking. I turn to see the little girl holding her hand and throwing a tantrum. The other entitled brat had one of my chickens by a wing and was shaking her. This chicken was $40 as a chick. I freaked out. I grabbed her and pulled her close, and grabbed the 2 of them and threw them out of the barn. Please note that there is a small fence separating the birds and the spectators. I lost it and screamed at the parents and told them that they weren't welcome back. Fast forward 2 hours to the dairy bar. I was working my shift and was the only one in there during rush hour. I got 2 big orders. The first one was 3 milkshakes and a cone. The second was 9 milkshakes, 4 dishes, and a cone. I worked on the smaller one first. Bang, bang, bang. What's taking so long? She is back, with her crew of goblins. I smile and nod and deal with her attitude. She has her kids throw their ice cream and makes me make new ones. Then they leave. I heard that my birds were being touched by some people by a friend, and I went to see what was happening. The entitled family was in my birds' cages, pulling out their feathers and messing everything up. I went ape. I stormed up and slapped the entitled mom across the face and started screaming at her. Then I called security. She was pissed because I didn't put Bob away, and she ended up being banned from that fair. Man, some people just love to cause problems. Well, now we have our question of the day, which is, graveyard shift workers, what's the weirdest thing you've experienced in the dead of night? So I used to work night shifts at a remote gas station. Entire night, I'd see maybe 15 to 30 people, on a busy night. Where I sat behind the counter, I could see the well-lit forecourt, but the darkness around it was impossible to see through. It was like being on an island in an ocean of black. One night, at about 2 a.m., I'm reading and waiting for someone to show up, and suddenly I feel like I'm being watched. It was like someone flipped a switch. Boom, eyes on me. I look outside, but nothing. No cars, no movement. I wonder if someone might be lurking just outside the light, but no. It really does feel like the presence is very close to the large glass window. I try to ignore it, but in my mind's eye I cannot shake the image of someone standing right against the door, staring in. I try to be logical about it. Not only is the door locked, the customers have to be served in a hatchet this time, but because some people are incapable of reading signs, the incredibly heavy metal newspaper stand is pushed right up against the door. Brakes locked. There's barely a few inches of space between it and the door. Even if, theoretically, someone invented invisibility and is using it to spy on the world's most boring night shift, there would be no room for a person to stand there. It's fine, I think. No need to worry. The door is locked anyway. But what if it isn't? The feeling of being watched is still there, and despite myself, I get up and go double check the door is locked. Lo and behold, it is. I'm about to relax when I see the footprints. The big, wet footprints, just one single pair, angled with the toes pressing right against the door. Nobody crossed the well-lit forecourt, the newspaper stand had not moved, and the night was completely dry. Well, I hope you guys are ready for the Halloween season, because it's starting to get spooky in here. About 10 years ago, I worked the graveyard shift at a gas station in Phoenix, Arizona. It was quiet, maybe around 2 or 3 a.m. It's just me, standing outside the entrance door smoking, when a small truck rips into the parking lot, on the other side of the pump island. The truck comes to a screeching halt at the air machine. You know, the ones that take 75 cents to operate. Two guys jump out the back of the truck and loop a large chain around the entire machine. They hop back in the truck and the driver floors it, ripping the entire machine out of the concrete. They drive off, dragging the machine, spewing sparks about a quarter mile to the next traffic light before disappearing from view. It probably took 10 to 15 seconds tops. Presumably, this was to empty the machine of quarters, which is something I did every night at the beginning of my shift. That seems like a very odd way to do a robbery, if it even was a robbery. I went to the second floor of a building to have a nap at like 3 a.m. As I was closing my eyes, I had a weird uneasy feeling like somebody else was in the room, but I closed my eyes tight and just ignored it. As I slept, I felt something else was moving in the room, but I refused to give in to it. Finally, I decided I'd take a quick glance to see what it was. When I opened my eyes, in the reflection of one of the glass walls, I saw a bearded man smiling, and it freaked me the heck out, so I jolted up. So it turns out, it was a freaking electric waving Santa Claus display that someone had plugged in, and it was pretty realistic at 3 a.m. Man, I really know how this feels, because I worked graveyard shifts for a while, and when you're like the only one in this big building, and it's just really dark everywhere, like anywhere you walk, like even though you know there's nobody there, it still just like makes you feel a little uneasy. So I worked nights in a bakery. There were rumors that the place was haunted by two ghosts. One little old lady who liked to play pranks around the place when she was alive, and one who still thinks he has to work the next night. On one of the nights, there were 4 of us working. One guy thought it'd be funny to mess with the ghosts, or whatever, and put a glove by the window that connects the diner part to the dishwashing area. We come back to it a couple hours later, and the glove was repositioned, so it was flipping us off. I thought it was funny that one of us snuck up to the window to prank us like that, and I guess the guy who put the glove thought the same. He added another glove by the window, and all 4 of us went into the break room. Me and the 3 dudes were having a mini meeting about schedules, and not even 5 minutes in, I realized I left my pen near the window, and I went to go get it. When I got there, I found both gloves pointed at me, both of them flipping me off. Nowadays, it's seeing shadows passing halls or rattling walls when someone's arguing. I still work there. Dang, this sounds like a pretty exciting bakery. That's not really the type of job I would expect to have like a haunted night shift. While on my paper route, I was in a not-so-great area and was delivering to a trailer park. I saw a man walking funny. He fell flat on his face, got back up without using his hands, and kept walking like nothing ever happened. I think he was on crack. Man, that's not even easy. You try just doing a faceplant, just lay flat on the ground, and then stand up without using your hands. I work night security at a university. Doing a walk around outside, walking past the science block around 5 a.m. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a guy in a gray lab coat walking to the door of the building. I think nothing of it and carry on. 2 hours later, I go on another walk round and bump into a lecturer who works in the science block. I jokingly say to her, "One of your lot turned up earlier today." Lecturer has no idea what I'm talking about until I describe the guy I saw earlier. She says, "Ah, you've seen him then." Turns out gray lab coats haven't been worn at the uni for 40 years, and apparently this guy is some kind of ghost that lots of people have seen, but no one knows who he is. I'm not a great believer in ghosts, supernatural stuff, or anything like that, but the lecturer, knowing what I was talking about, gave me the creeps. For all I know, she could have been screwing with me, but I'm convinced I saw someone. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the bit of the curveball of creepy stories. You know, like I said, I worked graveyard shifts watching security cameras for almost 2 years, back from like 2015 to 2017. I've told a few stories about things that I've seen. I never really came across anything supernatural or anything, but we watched a lot of like car dealerships, and sometimes I would see like people just wander onto the dealership like trying to open doors on all the cars. So, I mean, I got a few people arrested who were trying to do that. Probably the most exciting thing that I would see though is like, it seemed like every Sunday night for like a few months, we were watching like this empty parking lot for like an old abandoned Kmart, and I'm pretty sure people would just have like random car meets at this parking lot, because you'd have anywhere from like 10 cars and like, I don't know, 200 cars just all show up at once. I mean, just like filling an entire parking lot within a few minutes. And I mean, as my job, I'm just like, well, nobody's supposed to be here, so I have like a microphone, I'm yelling at them, and they're not leaving, so I call the cops on them. And it's just so funny to watch, because you'll have like 2 cop cars that just pull in, turn their lights on, and then every single car just flees the parking lot, and then it's empty 10 minutes later. It's just a pretty crazy thing to witness, just like from the view of a camera. Anyways, I hope you guys are enjoying your holiday weekend. I'm still just busy playing WoW Classic right now, so thanks for watching.
weird fight that just went on forever. So like something weird about Classic is that if you keep attacking a mob, they will just keep chasing you forever. So like